Welcome to the Boldest You podcast. I'm your host, Carrie, and I'm thrilled to bring you real conversations with bold women and men. In this podcast, we dive deep into their stories, exploring what drives their courage, shapes their vision, and fuels their desire to leave a lasting impact. These are honest, vulnerable, and inspiring moments that celebrate what it means to be bold. Let's discover their legacies together. Our bold woman of the hour is Macey Block. Macey is a cat mom, auntie extraordinaire, lover of books, and all things cozy. She is a senior talent acquisition specialist at Bailey and considers herself an amateur comedian. She also happens to be my best friend, and I am so excited to have her on the podcast today to talk about her therapy journey. This conversation fits right in with May being Mental Health Awareness Month. May is a time to remind ourselves that mental health is just as important as physical health, and that none of us are alone in what we are carrying. Whether you're feeling strong, struggling, or somewhere in between, this month is about creating space for honest conversations, reducing stigma, and encouraging us all to check in with ourselves and with each other. My hope is that today's conversation meets you exactly where you are. You can also find our episode from last May with Megan Bennett, who talks about various types of therapy, stigmas around mental health, as a mental health practitioner herself. It was a very educational episode that even I learned a lot from. If you are struggling this month, I would encourage you to utilize resources. There are resources like dialing 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, as well as NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. You can dial 800-950-6264, or you can text NAMI, which is NAMI, to 62640. Again, if you are struggling or just need additional resources, I encourage you to utilize those this month and throughout the rest of the year because your mental health is important. With that, let's get into our conversation with Macey. Hi, Macey. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you, especially for May. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. It's my 30th birthday. And as my best friend, I can't think of anyone better. So excited to get to know more about you and the world to get to know you today. Diving in, tell us about a time when you've been bold.
I think there's a lot of different times, especially in recent times. There's been a lot of times that I've had to be bold, but the one that I think has impacted my life most significantly was when I made the decision to start going to therapy. And I know you're a fellow therapy lover, so you know what that does for your life. But that has definitely been the biggest thing for me. I was terrified for whatever reason. I'm sure I had a lot of reasons, but it felt really bold to finally make that decision to seek out some assistance. And never looked back, never thought twice about it after starting. So that's my bold.
That is so bold. And I think I said that before when someone has asked me like on this podcast, like when was the moment you've been bold? And I think I had the same answer, like scheduling that first therapy appointment, giving myself that time.
Yeah. I think the first one feels the hardest. Mm-hmm. It's like just actually doing it and finding the person and setting up the appointment. It feels like the most daunting task in the world. And then you do it and then you show up and you're like, oh, I can do this.
Yep. Honestly, it's the finding of the people. When I had a therapist that like was leaving her practice, so I had to find a new therapist, I almost stopped going because I was like, it's just not worth it. There's too many people and it's hard to find. And so like even the fact that it takes so much just to do the research or to schedule an appointment is like huge and bold in itself. And then showing up, like walking through the door and not canceling is the second bold. Like there's so much bold within that, all of that.
For sure. Yeah. I just had that the other day where I got an email, my therapist is moving her or leaving the practice. And so I had that moment too where I was like, do I keep doing this? And then I was like, yes, you do.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Especially if you can follow them to wherever they're going. Like, yep, sign me up if you like them. But okay, you said you were terrified, and I remember that feeling too.
Yeah.
What do you feel like were some of the hesitations or reasons that you like it maybe took you longer to schedule an appointment or to make that decision for yourself?
Yeah. I grew up in a house where like we didn't like that wasn't like a thing. I mean, I did therapy when I was a young kid, right after my parents got divorced. But other than that, like it wasn't just a thing that we talked about. And so for me, I had known a few people here and there like you, who had started therapy before me and had really good things to say, but I just was like, what if this like really changes who I am? I think that was like the
Mm,
biggest fear, was like, what if I start this and I become a totally different person? And I don't want to do that. That wasn't my intention. And so it just was really scary, to step into the unknown of like, what would I learn? And what would I learn about myself? And would there be things I do want to change about myself? And it was a big fear of not knowing what was going to happen.
yeah, that's really fascinating. That idea of like, will this change me? And in theory, like therapy, that I don't want to say that's the point, right? Because there's so many points to therapy. Like there's so many reasons why you go to therapy. But in some of it, like it can help you become a better version of yourself or a more informed version of yourself. That doesn't necessarily mean your identity changes, but I guess as I look
Right.
at my own therapy journey, yeah, there's for sure things that I like quote unquote have changed about myself because of I learned something. And the one I always say is like a recovering people pleaser. Like I still have a lot of work to go. And you and I, you know that as my best friend, but I am way further on that journey than I was 6 years ago, where I don't know that I can say like it's a very huge part of my personality anymore. Like there's elements of it in certain areas of my life that it comes out stronger, but it used to be like a very big part of my identity. So that's interesting that, yeah, that's also like what caused you to hesitate to go,
Yeah.
and to, yeah. So like, do you feel like you have had things about you that have changed through that journey?
For sure. But in a way that was different than maybe what I was afraid of, right? I think that I was more afraid of like, more so like the deep ingrained, like the values and things that I hold, which like looking back now almost feels a little silly to be worried about that, right? Like, I think we know most people, once you have your values, they don't change super drastically.
Mm,
And so I'm not even sure why that was something I was super concerned about. But yeah, I just didn't want it to change like my values and the things that like were really important to me in my life. And it didn't. But I can really relate to the people pleaser in a different way, but we're both people pleasers.
yep.
And so yeah, I've seen that shift and become a smaller part of who I am. Yeah, I wouldn't say that like I've gotten rid of it completely. I don't know that I ever will, and I don't know that I want to completely either. But yeah, it has definitely made parts of my personality smaller and other parts of my personality bigger as well, like in a
Mm,
positive way, like being able to be more, like assertive or sure about like the things that I want or who I am. So it's been both. Um, but yeah, never really didn't change like who I was. It like modified it in a way.
yeah. Yeah. Enhanced it. Like, and I
Yeah.
think that's a
Yeah,
good point that your value system may ebb and flow through the years. Like, certain values might become more important at different times in your
for
life,
sure.
but your values are your values for a reason. Like, there's a reason that you value the things that you do. And going to therapy, like your therapist isn't going to be like, "Oh, sorry, you have too much value in family. We gotta
Right.
work on that." Like, they're gonna
Not
want you
gonna
to have a
happen.
support circle. And so I can relate to that too though. Like worrying about what are they gonna say about me, or like even some of the judgment of like, it's
Mm.
again sounds so silly now that you've been going so far, but like I for sure have said in a therapy session, don't judge me for this. And like they just laugh because they're like, that's literally the whole point, is that you're here to talk about these things and process them. And just to give you that space to like, yeah, what does this mean? Or how are these certain things showing up? Or I don't know, for me, my brain is a zoo sometimes. And so it's nice to have a place where I just get to like open the floodgates and talk about it, and they help me process like, okay, this is why this is happening. And there's so many things I think in those sessions, like it very depends on, or very much depends on the therapist too, right? Like their are different types of therapy. Not every therapist is for everyone. And so some of that is this element too that, you find a professional you like, and it can help open the door just even more. So both of us love our therapists, and I wish we could send them this episode as like a you're doing great work.
I
What are some
probably
of the
will.
you should. Maybe I'll do that
Probably
too.
will.
What are some of the characteristics in your therapist that like
Mm,
really made it feel like a space where you could do that work on your own, or that you could
yeah.
process some of these things that maybe felt really hard coming into the sessions?
Yeah. Um, I think that for me, I'm incredibly lucky that I got it right on the first try. She was the first person that I went in to see and immediately was like, "Yeah, this is a great fit." And there was a couple reasons why. For one thing that I really looked for in a therapist was their background and like what do they specialize in. And she had spent like 20 years in corporate America, like working at like Fortune
Mm,
100 companies. And so for somebody who struggles with some work anxiety, like it was really important to have somebody who could understand what it's like to work in corporate America and some of the things that happen. And so that was a big thing for me, like going into it. But once that I actually got there and met her, she was an incredibly real person. I think a lot of times
mm,
people picture a therapist like if you've never done therapy, you don't know anybody in therapy, it's the person who sits across from you and goes, "And how does that make you feel?" And like, if that's your therapist style and that works for you, great. That was not going to be it for me. I needed somebody who like felt like I was just having a real conversation with someone who was also like reciprocating the conversation as well.
yeah.
Not like it was just me spewing everything to them and they
Hmm.
just were writing things down and then saying, "How does that make you feel?" And Sarah, shout out to my therapist, is a very real human being who shows up as a real person in our sessions, which I really appreciate. The other piece is there is absolutely no judgment.
Hmm.
And again, she's the only person I've ever, or at least as an adult, have talked to. And so I don't know that somebody would feel judged in a therapy session, but if you do, you should probably run the other way, 100%. But she just really makes it feel like I can say anything at all. The craziest thing, the craziest thought in your brain is probably not the craziest thing your therapist has ever heard.
Oh
So,
no.
so yeah, she just made me really feel like I could say whatever it is that I needed to say, and there was going to be no.
Yeah, I think the realness is so important. And maybe it's not for everyone, but I know for me too. I think that was something when I found mine, and it did take me a couple times to find mine, but I remember one of our first sessions, she very politely called me out on my like how what I was sharing. And I mean, she was very respectful, don't take that the wrong way, but like she recognized in me that I was giving her probably like 10% of what I actually wanted to say.
Mm,
And she was like, "Hey, I don't think that we're like I don't think you're actually sharing. Like let's go a little bit deeper here." And it was what I needed to hear. And I think, Macy, you're one of those people for me, right? When you and I talk, like you can see that in me. Like, and it felt like, yes, my therapist isn't my friend, but it's someone who recognizes like there's more to this. Let's go a little
yeah,
bit deeper. And that's really what I needed to open some floodgates and actually do some of the work that I maybe hadn't been doing the past 4 years of going to therapy. And it took that familiarity and through the different sessions with her, building up that like relationship essentially to like where I could feel confident sharing, like you said, anything and everything, and knowing that there's no judgment there, that she is gonna take it with stride and help me process whatever it means for me.
yeah,
And that, yeah, I think it's really easy to feel like what you're going through other people haven't gone through, or that like the person that you're talking to as a therapist, like with your therapist, that like well, they probably haven't had other people go through this, or like, oh, this is embarrassing or whatever. But like you
hmm,
said, granted, they go through a ton of training, and I've seen the
yeah,
textbooks of my friend who was going through some of this training. Like
yeah,
it lays out everything imaginable. And they meet with a bunch of clients. So, like, so many of these things other people are struggling with, and it might look a little bit different for someone else, but they're still hearing it. And they personally may have gone through some of those same things. And so it's important
yeah,
that, yeah, you have a person that you feel like you can really connect with, because otherwise
hmm,
you're going to walk into every session guarded, and that's not going to
yeah.
get you anywhere.
Yeah, and I think the other thing with her too is she has always made it very, very clear to me that like she is in my corner always. And
Mm,
when there were instances where somebody maybe wasn't treating me the way that I deserved to be treated, she was always like, well, let's figure this out. But also like, how dare they? And I appreciated some of that where it did feel, or it does feel kind of like a friendship that I have with
mhm,
her. Um, it's still like a professional relationship, but it's just, it still feels like warm and
mhm.
friendly and a place where like, do I want to be in therapy? It's not as fun as I'd like it to be, but like I want to be there. If I'm going to be there, I want to be there with her. Because it is hard, but you have to have somebody who makes it maybe a little less hard.
Yes, therapy is cool, as my t-shirt does say. And it is, and it's I totally get it. Like I have people in my life that are, yeah, like I guess I don't know if I'd say they're anti-therapy, but maybe not as curious or as
Yeah,
open to exploring it.
yeah, for
But
sure.
I like that's understandable because it if you describing therapy to someone of you're gonna go into a room with a seemingly stranger and tell them about some of the like deepest parts of your life, yeah, that doesn't sound super fun on the surface level. And I wouldn't say that. I mean, I've had sessions where I guess I could say are quote unquote fun because like the moment when you unlock something that you feel like
Yeah,
you have been stuck on forever or like you have the light bulb moment is I guess you could say it's fun because it's like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, like I finally seen or validated or like
Hmm.
all of those different emotions that you can experience where yeah,
Right.
it probably took some hard work to get there, but when you have that moment of finally understanding yourself in a new way or like you said getting that validation of like, yeah, you don't deserve to be treated that way. Like that moment can be just really rewarding and
It
makes
totally
all the
is.
hard work so worth it.
Yeah, I even have moments where not even in session, but between sessions where I'm like, oh my gosh, this was such a therapy win. I cannot wait to tell her. And then I'll tell her, and she like gives me a round of applause.
Yes.
It's just, it's fun to have those wins. And yeah, I feel like you're making some progress and also to learn. That's one another thing that I really appreciate is somebody who doesn't just ask the questions, but like explains to you like why they're asking the questions the way that they are and
Yeah.
maybe like the reasoning behind things or how your brain works or your body works in response to different things. So that I think has also been really, really cool to learn and just feel
Yeah.
like growing in that space that like we don't learn about. I don't know why we don't teach kids these things in schools, but to understand like how your brain works and how your body works and responds to trauma and all those kinds of things would be amazing. That would be a game changer for people as they become adults and have to deal with difficult things that a lot of people just don't know because no one ever taught
110%. Like when you said the learning about your brain, that has been some of those light bulb moments for me of realizing like how my brain has always worked. Like I'm not crazy. Like there is a reason that my brain is reacting this way or my body is reacting to something. And it like made me feel so validated. Like
yeah.
that, oh, this isn't just because I'm different than everyone else or like I can't function or I can't handle everything. It's like, no, there's a reason your brain works this way and you don't learn those things. And it's not a fault of like you said, like, right, like it, growing up, your family didn't talk about like I don't think my family did, and maybe it didn't, I just don't remember, but it there's so much that I think our generation, younger generations, like there's more education out there, which is wonderful. There's podcasts, books, and that's great that it's becoming a space that people can talk about it more. But there's also still like you can't learn everything. And so
No,
like people are still going to need the spaces. Like therapists are not going anywhere, in my
no,
opinion. Like that's pretty good job security.
no.
That like people still are going to need that space and people are still going to need to learn about their brains. And yeah, I just think of like when I work with bio girls, like some of the concepts that they're teaching in bio girls, I'm like, I did not learn this when I was in elementary school. And like
Right.
I like asked one of the girl or I asked the group of one of our sessions of like, who knows what empathy means? And literally all of them raised their hand because they did a school lesson on empathy. And I was like, What? Like, that's
That's
incredible because
impressive.
I don't think I was learning empathy when I was in elementary school. In fact, I'm pretty positive I did not. Those are all things that it's like if you learn some of those skills, you learn about how your brain works. Yeah, like what could I have set myself up for as an adult? Like just certain things,
Yeah.
because you just learn more.
Yeah, for
Mm,
sure.
it's fascinating. I could talk about therapy probably all day with you and just what we love. But you mentioned, like, okay, your therapist was in corporate America for 20 plus years. Like, that's super cool that she had that experience and can bring that to you. And I think that's the other thing when people think about therapy, right? Is that, like, oh, it's probably just going to be about like me. But honestly, I think you and I both can say, like, there's been a lot of work related things that get brought into
Yeah.
therapy. And just, yeah, I'd be curious, like, if you want to touch on that a little bit more, like how therapy is broader than just like your life stuff, right? Well, I guess work is a part of life, but
Yeah.
like the outside of work stuff and how like maybe some of the breakthroughs that you've seen in your career or how you show up as a professional based on like what your therapist has helped you process.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, the the biggest thing was for me as a natural people pleaser. I always want to like get it right. So like if I'm working with somebody, like I want to do it the best that I can. I want them to be happy with it. If I'm happy with it, great. But their happiness is probably more important than mine. And so for me, I work with people all across the country, and I'm talking with high level people. So, and oftentimes talking with people who have a lot more experience. They're more intelligent than I am, a lot of expertise. And that's intimidating in and of itself. Then you throw being a people pleaser on top of that. And I would leave conversations with people wondering, like, was that the right thing to say? And I would just think about those conversations over and over and over and what could I have done differently? And like, that's great to try and improve yourself to an extent. And when it becomes something that's really hard to like pull yourself out of those thought patterns, then it becomes a problem. And so it was things that it like keep me up at night. Like I'd wake
Mhm.
up in the middle of the night, like, oh my gosh, replaying this conversation. Should I have said this instead? And so I spent a lot of time working through like some of the irrational thoughts that your brain will tell you. And my therapist is
Yes.
great about that, especially having that corporate background to be like, okay, does this person have any control over your job? That was always like a question she would
Mm.
ask me. And the answer is always no. Almost
Mhm.
always no. And so it's sometimes just rethinking through some of those situations and pulling yourself out of those thought patterns and remembering the rational things and the factual things
Yep.
rather than some of those things that your brain tends to make up when you get stuck in your head. And so we've worked through that a ton, and now those are things that like I don't really think about. And I think what it came down to was spending a lot of time learning about myself and my expertise and who I am and what my intentions are and what I bring to the table. And it's like if I showed up to a conversation and was authentically myself and I did the best that I could and I had good intentions, that's all that matters. No, it doesn't matter. I can't control what that other person thinks or does. And quite honestly, they're not thinking about that conversation ever again
I'm
either.
not.
So yeah, it was probably a year that we did that where we just
Mm.
would go through situations and kind of backtrack and
Mhm.
rethink through them in a
Mhm.
different way.
Yeah, two things come to mind as you shared that. The first being, it'd be so interesting to talk to the people that, because I know you work with the same people kind of over and over, right? And to see, like, I am pretty positive their experience with you was probably even more like,
Sure.
or enhanced, like, right? Like
Yeah.
when you show up authentically, because I think as people pleasers, we feel like when I show up that way and I'm trying to do everything I can to give them what they want, like, well, then I'm putting my best foot forward. When in reality, like, it's sometimes can be obvious, like, oh, that person is like trying so hard to give me
Yeah.
everything that I want. And that's not realistic. Like, but then when you are just talking with someone and you're showing up authentically, like that experience that the other person can have with you of like, oh, like I see her natural strengths here. Like, I know that she is really talented and may not have all the answers because we just don't all the time, but
Yeah.
like is going to do her best to get me what I need or to give me advice. And the other thing that came to mind is that question that your therapist asked, right? Of like, does this person have any control over your job? Like, that makes me think of like your toolkit. And I think that's a big part of therapy of like putting together a toolkit of things that you can utilize in these moments because those situations don't go away. You're still going to have all those
No.
meetings. You're
Yeah.
still going to have to do your job every single day. So, what are the tools that you use to feel better in that or to combat the people pleasing? And that's something my therapist has always said to me is like my goal is that like when we're done with therapy, which apparently is a thing even though I'm not really ready to still accept that, but like the goal is that like we have built up your toolkit where you feel like you can handle these situations independently and don't need to come and process them with me because you feel good about that and you have the tools. And for me, one especially at work is I won't say I laughed at affirmations, but I was like, they don't work. Like that's silly. And my therapist was like, you some of these meetings again with higher leaderships or things like imposter syndrome was a big thing for me. That like I would go into those conversations not feeling like I had the expertise or the knowledge. And she was like, you need to take a couple minutes before those meetings and like write yourself affirmations. Like I am knowledgeable. I am the expert in this space. Like I have
Yeah.
a voice to share. Like, and it's weird how just taking a couple minutes to do that can reframe my thinking into that conversation that allows me to just show up a little bit differently. And there's still ones that are going to trigger it more than others, but it is amazing how those tools can make such a
Yeah.
difference in how you can show up.
Yeah. Another thing too that I think, going back to being a people pleaser, right? We want people to like us. And sometimes we work with people who don't give us any indication that they like us.
Oh,
And that
yes.
has nothing to do with us, but it's just maybe their communication style. They're really busy. And so they're just trying to boom, 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 knock things out. Right. And so that was another thing that we worked through where my therapist was like, why does them liking you impact your ability to do your job? It doesn't. You can
Mm-hmm.
still do your job to the same ability, whether they like you or not. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a big thing for me where I was like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter if they like me. If I deliver on what I say I'm going to deliver, that's what my job is. And then
Yes.
they might like me afterwards, which would be great. But if they still don't, then whatever. I still did my job the way that I was supposed to.
Be so curious to see if that, like what you just described, is higher in people who are in like HR or learning development, these like
Oh yeah.
people-centric careers. Like
Yeah.
I just would be so curious if there's any research on that because I can relate to that so much. And some of it I think is the team that I'm on, the teams, I mean, you and I are kind of on the same team, but used to work like literally together. That's how we became friends. And it was like we built within our teams strong friendships. Like it wasn't just a work connection. I have people at work that I consider friends.
Right.
And so when I'm in those conversations, like there is an element of friendliness and like, oh, I know this person likes me and I like them. But then when we expand outside of that very small circle, like because it's, yeah, with all like, we cannot be friends with every single person that we like or even get to know someone enough for them to make a judgment of do I like this person or not. Like sometimes it is just a quick conversation or something and it like adds a level of yeah it's not realistic for that person but because I'm so used to my day-to-day environment being around these people that I feel like I could confidently say like me, right? Like if it my brain just has to work differently to be like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Or they don't
Mm.
have to like me as a friend, but they can see that I'm competent. They can see that I deliver, like you said. And like some of it too, I think is personality. Like I'm more of like a bubbly, I mean, not all the time. I do say I'm a black cat, but like I think I'm just a connector. Like I like to make connections with people. I know you're
Yeah,
the same way. Like again,
for
a
sure.
lot of these people probably in people focused careers are that way.
Yeah.
Not everyone is that way. Like some people are more like,
Right.
let's go through our agenda, let's get what we need done. Like I don't need to talk about the weather or your weekend or any of these other things. And it when you go from one meeting where it's like super chatty and then to another, your brain can be like, oh my gosh, they hate me. Like
Yeah.
what did I do wrong? And it's not. Like you said, your therapist even giving you that tool to be like, why does that affect how your work is being done? Like those two things
Yeah.
realistically should not
It
go
doesn't matter.
together, but our brains mash them together like a Thanksgiving dinner plate all the
Yeah,
time.
they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they are separate, and you can do your job and you can do it well. And if people don't like you, not everybody's
Yep.
going to like you. There's
Nope.
billions of people on this planet. You're not going to like them all. And not everyone's going to like you.
That's okay. It is okay to not like everyone and to not be liked by everyone. We
Yeah.
need that on t-shirts just for that. For all of us people pleasers, like it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. I also feel like therapy, and I mentioned it a little bit, like how I said we used to work together. Like the other big thing therapy has helped with is the big life changes. And I know you've gone through them in terms of leaving a career, coming back to a career, buying a house, getting married. Like there's so many just life changes that I think come up in sessions, and we think that like life and career are separate, or that like, oh, I struggle with this at work. Like I don't struggle with that in my personal life, but I feel like there's everything is molded together. Things trigger other things. And so just curious if you've had experience with that too, where like it all comes together, or how you've processed like big life changes through therapy too.
Yeah. Honestly, thinking about like buying a house, job, well, honestly, a lot of what I talk about in therapy has been job
Yeah.
related and some of the things. And so yeah, it does all come together. But for me, the stuff that I deal with in my personal life is like super specific and has like other people involved, right? And so she does do a lot of helping me just like process and recognize a lot of the things that I just can't control. I think like if you could sum up therapy in like one
Oof.
phrase, it would
Hmm.
be like you can't control everything. So that for me I think has been the biggest thing when it comes to my personal life and my work life, but that has been like the biggest thing when it comes to some of those bigger life changes that we've just worked through. It's like applicable to everything.
Yep. Oh, that's painful to hear because it's accurate. And quite literally in therapy last week, that was like our whole hour-long session was like, Carrie, you cannot control that. Like,
Yeah.
I'd be like, are you sure though? Are you sure? Maybe if I try this. And she's like, you can't control it. And a podcast I was listening to recently with Brene Brown and Adam Grant, they were talking about this whole concept of control and uncertainty, and how people, it's their Curiosity Shop is their new podcast. And they were talking about how everyone says like these are the most uncertain times, right? Or like I think I personally have that where there's a lot of things in front of me that just feel uncertain. And it was interesting. Adam Grant basically said, like, it's actually the opposite. Like, these are the most certain times because we have so much more information than we would have had 100 years ago, 200 years ago.
Yeah.
We have so much information that, like, are realistically, it is the most certain times because we just have so much more. But our brains take that, and there's two pieces to it where one, it feels uncertain because we don't trust where our information, like we don't know what to trust. There's too much information.
Yeah.
And that like in times of uncertainty, your brain is looking for control. Like those two things are connected. And all of a sudden, like there's so many things that we don't have control over that it makes us feel very uncertain. And I was like, oh, that's so fascinating. And I feel frustrated and validated in the same sentence because I'm like, I can really relate to that feeling of like, yeah, in times of uncertainty, my natural inclination is to find something that I can control. And sometimes there are just things you can't, and you have to embrace the unknown and the accept what is in front of you or what's today or tomorrow and just take it in stride. But then it feels like, but I have all this information. So realistically, I should be able to control this because whether it's a career or I don't know, a million other things or like plans this weekend. Well, I can look at the weather. I can look at what gas prices are going to be. Like I can do all of this planning, but like it still could go crazy. Like the weather could say it's going to rain and it could be 90 degrees. Like there's no actual way to control it, but are like, especially when you're a control freak like myself, like you can really just spiral and then it makes it feel very uncertain because you're just like, well, I don't have any control and I don't know where to turn to, and then you just are like running in circles.
Interesting. I'm
Yeah.
gonna need you to send me that
Well,
so
I
I can
will.
listen to it.
This is very good.
because I get it and I agree and I disagree. So I need more.
Tell me what you disagree. I want to hear more about that.
I don't know. I think it's really hard to say that there's more certainty
Mm,
because of more information.
that's
Um,
fair.
that that to me, while I understand what he's getting at, because we do, right? Like if you, yeah, we do. We know more
Mhm.
than we've ever known. We have access to information instantly, but I don't know. It doesn't, to
Yeah,
me, feel like there's more certainty.
I
I
feel
think they
that.
can be connected and disconnected. Depends.
Hmm.
My favorite answer, it depends.
It depends. I know. And that's why I liked the episode because both of them are quick to say, like, yes, it's this and it's this. Like, there isn't a hard and fast answer.
Yeah.
And even like Brene Brown was the one who was like, yeah, the most uncertain times. And Adam's like, actually, it's the most certain of times. And
Yeah.
it's just the dialogue of it, like, really
Yeah.
makes you think differently of like, oh,
That's another therapy thing that you learn, that two things can be true at once.
yep. Yes, yes,
So,
they can. Yes, they can. And at times that is really wonderful. And at times it can drive you a little nuts
yeah, at
because
times that's really hard to deal with and understand. But yeah, two things can be true at once.
I think that the two things can be true at once, if we're talking from a work perspective, has been really helpful at work because it can be really, really easy. I think especially as I became a manager, like to see things from one perspective and
Yeah.
to be like, oh, this is how I feel, or my team feels this way. And so I have this pressure that I have to fix it. That's my own internal pressure, let's just make that clear. But to also then reflect and say like, but it's also true that these other people are having a different experience or have different priorities,
Yeah.
and that like it isn't one or the other. Like both are valid thoughts. And even as, like I said, a manager working with my team, there have been many times where I'm like, yes, your thoughts are valid. Like your feelings are valid that you're having and your experiences are valid. But so is the person on the other side of that phone call. Like they are also having an
Right.
experience. And that it's hard to process through that at times because sometimes you want there to be a very clear line drawn in the sand of this is right and this is wrong. But the gray area, if I've learned anything in being a manager, working corporate America and going to therapy, is that like life is in the gray and that
Yeah.
sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
But like when we are so rigid, which I'm still working on, that's probably my biggest thing I'm still working on. Like my therapist always, she literally drew it out on a whiteboard once for me. She was like, you are on a road and you are not allowing your car to go anywhere but perfectly straight. And she's like, that's not how people drive. You veer off to the side a little bit, you veer off to the side the other a little bit, but like, yeah, you stay within your lane. Like you don't go to the other lane, but like you don't perfectly drive straight. Like think about that. And she's like you have to be able to ebb and flow. Like when you are living so rigidly, like you're getting nowhere and it's causing you anxiety and frustration and all of the emotions that I regularly process through. And I was like, I still go back to that, like the road. Like I just brought that was like probably 2 years ago that she did that. And in my therapy session last week, I was like, so I've been driving very strictly on the road. And she was like, yes, you have been. Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, but you recognized it this time around. Right? Like
And
you're
that,
the one that said it versus her
yes.
telling you that you were doing it.
And I think I'd be curious your experience with after going to therapy. Like, I do think that is one of those therapy wins that you mentioned when you can see it in yourself. And it maybe means like there's been times where like this happened to me last fall. I hadn't gone to therapy in probably like 4 or 5 months because my therapist said I graduated. And then I was like, I don't really think I graduated yet, but apparently I did. But then some things came up that were really triggering a lot of my like shame spirals. And so I had reached like, I was like, okay, I do this. Like I was going through all of the things. And I remember reaching out to her and saying, like, okay, here's what's going on. I am using the tools in my toolkit and they are not getting me past. Like I'm still ruminating and I'm still doing these things. Like I think it's now time to have a session where we process like what is really going on. And being able, yeah, like I was like, oh, that's a win that like I can see to myself. I can now see myself doing the rumination, or I can see myself maybe not using the tools in the ways that like should be using them,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to then go and talk about it and process it. And for her to be like, yeah, like that was a big step for you, that like you even recognize that in yourself now, where a couple of years ago when we started this work, like you had no clue that that's why you were doing what you were doing, or your brain was working in this way. So that's another, yeah, therapy win that I think you start to see after you've gone to so many, like you've gone for a number of times and you start to recognize those patterns that come up.
Yeah, for sure.
We've talked a lot about therapy, but also I did say we were going to talk about books
Oh yeah.
because I will say it, I think books and therapy, mental health, I should say, go hand in hand because they can
Hmm.
be a way that you escape the world or that you use your brain in a different way. And so I would love to hear what books you feel like have been pivotal in your
Oh,
life. It doesn't have to be therapy related, but like
oh,
what books have been pivotal? And I
you
know that there's
already
a couple
know.
you could talk about.
You
So
already,
let's
well,
hear it.
if we're gonna talk like related, like truly pivotal, like life altering, that feels like a
All the
big.
things. It could just be like, I read this book and holy crap, that was the most incredible book because I know what book you're going to say. Or it could be like, this just, yeah, changed my mind about something or my perspective.
Yeah.
Anything.
Okay. So I would say the book that has been hands down the most impactful for me when it comes to like mental health, the way that I think about myself, the way that I think about the world, um, is the book that was I just bought for you and for me.
Oh, I can't wait. Can't wait.
It's called The Body Is Not an Apology. And it really goes into how societal norms and pressures are all made up. It's all made up and the points don't matter.
Hmm.
It's all made up. And it has significantly changed the way that I think about my body. And it's not just focused on women. It's not just focused on weight. It's about people with different abilities and how
Mm.
they're viewed in the world and how they're expected to show up in the world. And so that for me has been probably the only book. I'm not much of like a self-help book kind of a person. That's not my jam. But this has been the one that I have read where I would reread again. I want to buy for everyone that I know. And I continuously think about. And it's been probably 2 years since I read it, I would think. Just about 2 years. So
Mm.
that is hands down the book that every, especially woman, should read, just with the pressures that we go through. But
Okay.
yeah,
I'm thinking since I have not read it,
yeah,
you should reread it with me and we can do a maybe
yeah,
book club
yeah, I
because,
totally would. It's a short
okay,
read. It's like I think it's
love
like
it.
less than 200 pages. It's super quick, but it's got some like data and stuff that it'll cite and refer to. So it's a really good book.
Cannot wait. Thank you for
Yeah,
getting it for me because I cannot
yeah,
wait to read it.
yeah,
Um, but yes, those books, I get it. Sometimes I think those like nonfiction books or like the self-helpy, like they are hard to get through, but when you find one, and it's different for everyone, like everyone has, I shouldn't say everyone, because not everyone's a book nerd like us, but if you are a book person, I feel like most people do have a book like that. For me, it was
yes,
Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. And partly that was like part of the therapy I was doing, but like yeah, you read some of those things and it just opens your mind in a whole new way and you see the world differently or see yourself
yeah,
differently, and it's amazing how research or someone's explanation of something can do that for you, which is why books are so cool.
yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay, so that was that book. Now tell us just from like what book should every other person
Fiction.
read? Yeah,
Perfect. There's so many good
well, you
ones.
can pick more than one.
Well, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue
That I
is
was waiting
hands down
for.
one of my favorite books of all time. I tell everyone to read that book. Yeah, that's my biggest recommendation. I probably have others, but that's the one for me that like again, I don't reread books. That's not my thing. But I would reread that and wish I could read it for the first time
Mm.
over and over and over.
Oh, thinking about books that you wish you could reread for the first time. There's a handful of those. I feel like for me it would be that, well, there's a lot. I would love to reread Fourth Wing for the first time, and I know that you think I'm crazy. But probably the Harry Potter series. Like I read them so young, or my mom read them to me so young. I know you read them as an adult, so we have very different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be, I wish I could reread them as an adult, but for the first time, just to see the difference in experience of
Yeah,
reading those
it's a very
books.
different
But
experience, I think.
probably, but yeah. But also, It's probably what got, I mean, they're all magic, dragons, all the things. And that's a lot of the books that we read, Macy, are magic. And I mean, like Secret Life of Addie LaRue, I don't think there's dragons,
No,
but
but
there's
there's magic.
magic, lots of magic.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's a good one. Yeah. Okay. Well, we've talked about a lot of different things, therapy, books, all the things. I always like to end with some just like rapid fire because I love me a good connection
Let's do
card.
it.
Okay, what is your favorite beverage or go-to beverage?
Gosh. Okay. You want my real answer? You're gonna die.
Yes, of course I want your real
I
answer.
really almost want you to guess it.
Is it the
Just because
lemon,
okay,
whatchamacallit?
I do love a limoncello LaCroix, but I
LaCroix,
on a
yes.
regular basis,
Water,
this is
probably.
pathetic. It is water.
I was like, it's for sure water.
My snack of choice is vegetables. My drink of choice is water. It sounds like I'm a really healthy person, but I'm not. But I look at my husband probably 2 or 3 times a week after taking a sip of cold, like fridge temperature water. No, I don't want ice.
Okay.
I want fridge temperature water, and I will 2 or 3 times a week do that and tell him that it's the best drink I've ever had. So I'm not
That's a
even
hot
kidding.
take.
But I do love a limoncello LaCroix, also water.
I mean, I get, yeah, that's fair. That's water. So
But
I was
if I had
close.
to choose non-water, Diet Coke all day.
Diet Coke.
Especially
Okay,
from
so with
McDonald's.
water then, are you like specific on your bottled water? Like I know that that's a thing. Like some people are like brand specific. You're just like, give me all the
No,
water.
but I will say it's got to be like water from my house, from my tap. Like
Interesting.
I love you, but I don't like the water at your house.
Hmm.
Water,
I've
yeah,
never, I don't know the difference. But see, people say that
tastes
though, and
different.
I'm like, I don't think I've ever noticed a different taste of water unless it's like bad. Like you can tell when it's bad.
They taste
But
differently for sure.
well, because that's how Travis is. Like he's very
Yeah.
specific. Like I will drink it out of our sink. Travis is like, no, give me the
Oh,
fridge water.
oh no, I
And
don't
I'm
care about
like,
that.
I don't
No,
know the
but there
difference.
is difference.
Hmm.
There is, especially when you're traveling around and going different places. Whenever we go on vacation, the day that we're traveling home, we always are like, we can't wait to drink water from our own house. I don't know.
That's quite interesting. Okay. Just plain old water. Okay. Okay, you said vegetables. I don't think I've ever asked you, what's your favorite vegetable?
Them?
Like all veggie tray, just give you all of it? I know, I mean, that is
Yes.
probably the best gift to give you is a veggie
If I'm gonna
tray.
have to choose one though, I'm gonna go carrots, which feels kind of basic, but
Hmm.
it's the
But they're
truth.
so, carrots
They're
are versatile
versatile.
though. You can get, I was gonna say, you can use them in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
and that's fair. I would,
Yeah. Cooked,
I don't know
raw,
what I would say.
all the things.
Yeah.
Sweet,
I'd probably say
savory.
Brussels sprouts if I had to
I
pick one
love.
for myself. Asparagus,
Yep.
maybe? I don't
Yeah.
know. There's,
All of them.
I do credit you for getting me to eat more vegetables.
Thank you.
There's vegetables in my life that I would not have eaten if it were not for you. So, shout out to squachos. If anyone needs that recipe, ask me afterwards. Okay, so we learned that. What's your favorite way to recharge or unwind?
I love to sit on my couch with my husband, with my cats, with a book.
Absolutely. Love, straight up. You
My
guys do have a
go-to.
very comfortable couch.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Or watching thrifting TV shows, which you have made me think about.
Yeah. Flea Market Flip,
Flea Market Flip.
American Idol,
So good.
anything 90 Day
Oh,
Fiance.
oh, I have
Yeah.
never watched 90 Day Fiance.
Oh man. I'll get you.
I'm
Don't
not
worry.
good at reality TV shows. I
Mm,
want to be. I really do, but I'm just not good at sticking with them. I'll start them and then I get bored. But
mm-mm. Not in this house.
fair
Not
enough.
in this
Next time we
house.
come, we can binge some 90 Day Fiance.
Yes.
Okay, if you or got to hear your friends gossiping about you, what would you want to hear them saying?
That I am the funniest person they know. That would
Doesn't
probably be it.
surprise me. You are funny. You make me
I
laugh
laugh
a
at my own
lot.
jokes though. No. I mean, yes, that is a real thing. I do. Yeah. That's a tough one. I think there's a lot of things. I think coming from my friends, like I'd want them to say like I'm a good friend. I'm somebody that they know that they can call when they need anything, any time of day, and I'm going to show up for you. That would probably be the biggest thing because I think that just says a lot about who somebody is in general. But that would probably be the biggest. And then also that
That you're funny.
I'm funny.
Well, to be fair, I would say you are a good friend. There's a reason I describe you as my best friend, because you are the person who will drive like 4 hours to help me move in the
I
middle of a
would. I
snowstorm.
did. Let's do
You
it
did. I
again.
know you did.
Let's do it again.
There's an well, hopefully we're not doing that again for a
Yeah,
while.
let's actually
A
not
long
do
time.
it again.
Let's not move. That's not fun. But you are a good friend and you are very funny.
Thank you.
I laugh every time I get a
Thank
video
you.
from you on like Instagram or something. Every time. Every time. And you've made me laugh in a lot of moments when I have been very down. So, okay, well then to wrap up, what kind of legacy do you want to leave?
I think for me, I'm less concerned about like a legacy. I guess it's kind of open to interpretation, but sometimes when I think about when people say like I want to leave this legacy, I think about like their children and their grandchildren and this thing that they want to build, and that's really great if that's what you want to do. I don't. I think for me, I think a lot about like the young women in my life, and I don't have a ton, but like my nieces and some of my friends who maybe they're not younger than me, but are still young with me. And just showing them that like you can just be whoever you are. And like that's enough. My favorite thing, besides saying that it's all made up and the points don't matter, which hopefully people understand that reference, because it is all made up. None of it matters. And you can do whatever you want and you can be whoever you want. And if people don't like it, doesn't matter. If you're happy, as long as you're not hurting anybody, who cares? Be whoever it is that you want. But specifically, what I love to say is, especially being a woman, your body is the least interesting thing about you. It is the least interesting thing you have to offer the world. And so you should focus on other things.
Yes, cosign, mic drop, all the things. I think it's a good reminder for us in Mental Health Awareness Month. Like, your body is literally the least interesting thing about you.
Literally.
Lean into all the other
Literally.
things. And
And the
if you're a
people
person
who
who is
love you,
focusing on it, y'all, like if that's what you're focused on with other people, we got to do some resetting because that's
yeah,
not what matters.
no, because literally, I said this to my mom, I've said this to you. When I think about the people that I love who are important to me in my
Mhm.
life, it has nothing to do with what they look like and more about who they are as a person. And so I know that's hard to think about for yourself. We're own worst critics, but if we can think about other people that way, like maybe we can think about ourselves that way too.
I sure hope so. I hope that there is a world. And like you said, your nieces, right? And you and I have bonded over being an aunt just as much as everything else. But I think about that a lot. Like the things that I grew up thinking about and still do, like still
Yeah,
have moments. And
absolutely.
like if there's things that I can do to influence like how she views herself and like to help instill in her at 5 or 6, like your body is not interesting to me. Like I care about you because you are silly and funny and goofy and sassy and all of the other things.
Yeah.
Like I don't care. And like yeah, similar for friends, like you said. Like that's not literally if anyone ever asked me like how do you describe Macy, nowhere on the list would that
No.
be. Like it would
No.
be all of the other characteristics that make you who you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's hard for us to remember that for ourselves, but we can dream or we can work, not even dream because it's not a
Yeah.
dream. Like we can work towards a world in which that's a reality for ourselves too.
Yeah. For sure.
Wow, you just dropped the biggest truth bomb probably ever. So I think that's a good place to end it on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for coming to the podcast, Macy. It was so fun to chat with you on all things therapy and books and all of the other things. I very much enjoyed our time together. So thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.